The NFL is a passing league, and there wouldn't be a passing game without the wide receiver. There are a lot of good receivers in the NFL, but who's actually the best? In this video, I'm going to be ranking my top 50 wide receivers heading into the 2026 NFL season. If you enjoy this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Subscribe would take just a second, and it really helps me out. Thank you, and let's get started. Number 50, Omar Cooper Jr., New York Jets. Cooper was the 5th wide receiver taken off the board in the 2026 NFL Draft, selected 30th overall. However, I really liked him and actually had him as my wide receiver 3 in that class. Cooper can do everything. He's got reliable hands, runs good routes, and is great after the catch. He doesn't necessarily have any elite traits, but there are very few weaknesses in him as well. If it weren't for the injury concerns, Jordan Tyson would be at this spot, but I have Tyson at spot 51 because of those concerns, which Cooper just doesn't have. I don't know how great the Jets passing attack will be with Geno Smith at QB, but I think Cooper is a very fun rookie receiver. Number 49, Travis Hunter, Jacksonville Jaguars. Hunter was a fascinating prospect coming out of college due to his ability to play both wide receiver and cornerback, and in his rookie season, he actually did play both ways. Unfortunately, his rookie season was cut short after just 7 games due to a torn LCL. In those 7 games, Hunter put up nearly 300 yards and a touchdown on offense, and showed a lot of flashes, including a 100-yard game against the Rams. Hunter does have to prove he can stay healthy, but he was a fantastic receiving prospect coming out of Colorado, and I have high hopes he can impress on both sides of the ball. Number 48, Chris Godwin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After being a consistently great receiver for pretty much his entire career, things have fallen off for Godwin. He only played 9 games in 2025 due to injury, and the year before that, he played just 7. He also showed pretty severe signs of regression in 2025, as he had the lowest yards per route run of his entire career. His drop rate and contested catch rate were also down from what they usually are, and at 30 years old now, Godwin isn't quite the same player he used to be. I do think he's still a good receiver, but his injury concerns and regression land him down at 48. Number 47, Jauan Jennings, Minnesota Vikings. Jennings broke out in 2024, putting up nearly 1,000 yards, and while he wasn't quite able to reach those numbers again in 2025, he was still good, finishing with 643 yards and a career-high 9 touchdowns. For 2 years now, he's been the most consistent piece in what has been a very chaotic 49ers wide receiving room. Jennings signed with the Vikings this offseason to be their wide receiver 3, and he immediately becomes one of the best number 3 options in the NFL. He brings that big body presence the Vikings need, and if Minnesota doesn't have the passing attack they had last year, if you can even call it a passing attack, then I think Jennings will have a good season. Number 46, Jayden Reed, Green Bay Packers. After a very promising first 2 seasons, Reed looked primed to break out as the next Packers star receiver. Unfortunately, a broken collarbone and a fractured foot limited Reed to just 5 full games, and when he was on the field, he wasn't quite as good as previous years. Yards per route run, yards per reception, and yards after catch efficiency were all career lows. I do think Reed can bounce back, and he has shown signs of being a good receiver, but I can't rank him any higher than this until he actually breaks through. Number 45, Josh Downs, Indianapolis Colts. Downs was another receiver drafted in 2024 that showed real promise in his first 2 seasons. Unfortunately, his 2025 season saw his production dip significantly in pretty much every way, and this wasn't all because of Philip Rivers having to play. Even when Daniel Jones was out there, Downs just wasn't making his usual impact. I mean, the most yards he had in the game was 65, and he went under 50 yards 11 times. He still has reliable hands, and I don't think he's a bad receiver overall, but I think many Colts fans were hoping for more from Downs. Number 44, Romeo Doubs, New England Patriots. After a solid but unspectacular first 3 seasons in the league, Doubs had his best year yet in 2025, putting up a career-high 724 yards along with 6 touchdowns. He had just 3 drops and a career-high in yards per receptions and yards per route run as well. And on top of that, in the Packers wildcard game against the Bears, Doubs showed out, putting up 124 yards and a touchdown. That was just his second 100-yard game of his career. His only other one also coming in a playoff game where he put up 151 yards against Dallas in 2023. Doubs is now signed on as the wide receiver 2 for New England, and for a Patriots team expecting to make another playoff run, having someone who's shown they can step up in the playoffs will be very helpful for them. I think Doubs has emerged as a very solid receiver and should produce well for the Patriots. Number 43, Luther Burden, Chicago Bears. Burden was a great receiving prospect drafted in the 2nd round of the 2025 draft, and he had a very interesting rookie season. He played just 256 snaps, some of the fewest among starting receivers that played the whole season, but he made every snap count as he actually finished with the 3rd highest yards per route run in the entire league, only behind Jackson Smith-Njigba and Puka Nacua. Burden only had 652 yards and 2 touchdowns, but you can't deny how impressive nearly 2.7 yards per route run is. There are some other factors that lead me to not ranking Burden as high as one might expect. His drop rate of 9.6% is not good, and likely one of the reasons he didn't play as much as others. He also only received one contested catch look, which he didn't come down with, so clearly the Bears don't trust him to come down with tough catches, which is a big part of being a receiver. He's also only played 1 year, and it was very unusual to say the least, so I want to see at least one more year of good production before I raise Burden too high. But I think he showed a lot of flashes, and with him now being the wide receiver 2, I'm excited to see what he can do. Number 42, Emeka Egbuka, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the first half of the season, Egbuka looked like the next superstar receiver. He was the clear favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he could not be stopped. But then things began changing, and he started to play worse. Much worse. In fact, he was one of the worst wide receivers in the league during the latter half of the season. Egbuka put up just 33 yards per game and 0 touchdowns in the final 8 weeks of the year. He finished 2025 with an 11.3% drop rate, one of the worst in the league, and his contested catch rate of 29.6 was also among the worst in 2025. The Bucs were relying on him to continue playing well, and it's no coincidence that Baker Mayfield, the offense, and the Bucs as a whole regressed significantly the moment Egbuka began to play worse. I still like Egbuka. He was a good prospect, and he was really good in those first few games, but until he gets back to that, he's staying down in the 40s. Number 41, Carnell Tate, Tennessee Titans. Tate was my wide receiver 1B in this class, and I think he's a great fit for the Titans and Cam Ward. Tate brings size and outside X ability to a pretty small receiving room, and I think he and Ward are going to build a connection quickly. Tate has some of the best hands and overall ball skills you will ever see from a rookie prospect. I mean, the 0 drops and near 86% contested catch rate in 2025 speak for themselves. Tate immediately provides Ward with an extremely reliable and big-bodied weapon to throw to, and that's exactly what this offense needs. Number 40, Makai Lemon, Philadelphia Eagles. Lemon was my wide receiver 1A in this class, but despite being vastly different players, he and Tate are so close that I wouldn't mind which order you put them in. I decided to go with Lemon ahead just barely, but again, it doesn't really matter. But like I said, Lemon is a very different player. He fits more of that Amon-Ra St. Brown slot receiver mold, and he does it very well. He's got great hands, runs excellent routes as a weapon after the catch, and an underrated part about Lemon is that he blocks his absolute ass off. I think he's going to be a super good intermediate target for Jalen Hurts, and I'm really excited to see which of these two excellent rookie receivers ends up having the better season. Number 39, Marvin Harrison Jr., Arizona Cardinals. Marvin's been such a frustrating player because the talent is there, and he's shown the flashes of that generational prospect we all saw him as. The Saints game, the Titans game, the second half of the first Seahawks game, he's had spurts of being really good, but in between that has been a lot of bad. His drop rate skyrocketed to 10.9%, which at least in his rookie season, you could hold on to the fact that he only had 1 drop, but not this year. He also played just 12 games due to injury, adding another wrinkle to his career. I'm not ready to give up on Marv. I still think the talent is in there, but if he doesn't take a serious leap this season, then don't expect him on the top 50 next year. Number 38, Michael Pittman Jr., Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittman is still a very solid receiver, but despite him being just 28 years old, he has shown signs of regression the past couple years. 2025 saw him put up his worst numbers since his rookie year, just 784 yards, though he did have 7 touchdowns. His drop rate has been consistently under 5%, which is good, but his contested catch rate dipped under 50% for the first time since that rookie year, and his yards per route run were also down for the past few years. I still think Pittman is a very solid receiver, and getting to be the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh will be nice, as he has been the Colts wide receiver 1 for most of his career, but he definitely is not the same player he was back in the early 2020s. Number 37, Khalil Shakir, Buffalo Bills. Shakir's been a very solid, reliable receiver for Josh Allen the past 3 years, and in 2025 was that same guy, putting up 719 yards and 4 touchdowns. For 3 years now, he has been top 5 in reception percentage, being the only player to even be in the top 5 twice. He's always had good hands and is a threat after the catch as well, finishing 3rd in missed tackles forced and yards after catch per reception. Shakir has probably reached his upset as a player, but even with DJ Moore now in the building, I still expect Shakir to put up the same level of production and continue to be a reliable option for the Bills. Number 36, Rome Odunze, Chicago Bears. Odunze built off a very solid rookie season, and though he was limited to just 12 games, he still put up 661 yards and 6 touchdowns. His yards per route run drastically increased, and overall he made enough of an impact for the Bears to be comfortable trading away DJ Moore to let Odunze take over as the 2021. His drop rate did stay above 8%, which isn't great, and his contested catch rate took a huge regression from over 70% in his rookie year to just under 40% in 2025. But maintaining a 70% contested catch rate is extremely difficult, so I'm not surprised to see it fall. I think so long as Odunze stays healthy, he can take that wide receiver 1 job, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Number 35, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tennessee Titans. After not doing a ton for 3 seasons, Robinson broke out in 2025, putting up 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had career best across the board, including yards per reception, yards per route run, and drop rate. While at first he was known as nothing more than a slot receiver, Robinson showed an ability to attack all 3 levels of the field in 2025. His average depth of target would never went beyond 6 in his first 3 seasons, but jumped up to 9 in 2025. Still not very high, but there were numerous deep balls he was able to come down with. Robinson is a very underrated player in my opinion, and I think he will be a great target for Cam Ward. Number 34, Christian Watson, Green Bay Packers. A lot of people criticize how much money the Packers paid Watson, and while I agree that it was an overpay, I understand why the Packers did it, because simply put, Watson was one of the best receivers in the league in 2025. In just 10 games, Watson put up 611 yards and 6 touchdowns, putting him on pace for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in a 17-game season. The drop problems that had plagued him earlier in his career vanished, as he had just 1 drop all season. His 2.51 yards per route run were the 5th most in the NFL, and he finishes the 8th highest graded receiver per PFF. The biggest concerns on Watson are of course the injuries. He has yet to play a full 17-game season, but if he can manage to stay healthy, I think he'll show everybody why the Packers paid him as much as they did. Number 33, Jordan Addison, Minnesota Vikings. Yes, Addison dealt with some absolutely abysmal quarterback play, everybody knows that, but while players like Justin Jefferson and even Jalen Nailor were doing everything they could despite the QB play, Addison did not help out his QBs at all. Not only did he miss the first 3 games due to a suspension from a driving incident in 2024, but when he was on the field, he was one of the least reliable receivers in the league. Addison finished 2025 with a 14.3% drop rate, tied for the 6th highest in the league. He accounted for nearly a third of his team's total drops this season. I am hoping the season was just a fluke, because for the first 2 years he was actually extremely reliable and showed great hands, so I'm not sure what happened this year. The talent is still very much in there, but he needs to show it. Number 32, Rashee Rice, Kansas City Chiefs. Oh boy, what the hell do I do with Rashee Rice? On the field, he's a great receiver. The problem is he's barely been on the field the past 2 years, whether that's been due to injuries or suspensions. In 8 games this season, Rice put up 571 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is pretty good. His drop rate did skyrocket to 10.2% though, which is not something we're used to considering he's always had reliable hands. His contested catch rate has also always been very low, and while that's not really his game, it's still a knock on him as an overall player. And you could honestly argue for Rice to be as low as 50 or as high as 20, but before I put him any higher, I need to see at least another full season of good production. Number 31, Jakobi Meyers, Jacksonville Jaguars. Meyers has always been an underrated, reliable receiver, and was that again for both the Raiders and Jaguars in 2025, putting up 835 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was especially good for the Jaguars, dropping just 1 pass and converting on 61.5% of his contested catch looks. Great hands have always been a strength of Meyers, and that hasn't changed. He's also shown an ability to play both on the outside and in the slot, something not every receiver can do. The Jags do have a crowded receiver room, but I think Meyers will get his fair share of targets. Number 30, Parker Washington, Jacksonville Jaguars. And look at that, here's another player from the Jags' crowded receiving room. Washington had a breakout 2025 season, putting up 847 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was especially good down the stretch, putting up 347 yards in the Jags' final 3 games and topped everything up with a 107-yard performance in that wildcard game against the Bills. The biggest knock on Washington is something that's been an issue going back to college, and that's drops. He had a 9.4% drop rate in 2025, and that's not great. But outside of that, Washington was a very good receiver this season, and we'll see how much he can produce in this Jags offense. Number 29, Michael Wilson, Arizona Cardinals. I've always thought Michael Wilson was underrated, but even I couldn't see his 2025 season coming. Wilson absolutely broke out and straight up took Marvin Harrison's job, finishing with just over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Yes, he did play the most snaps in the league, and his yards per route run aren't anything impressive, but what is impressive is his 4.9% drop rate, his 64.7% contested catch rate, and the fact that he was able to produce as well as he was despite being covered by #1 corners who knew that the Cardinals were passing basically every play, considering they had no run game and were constantly losing. I can't rank Wilson too high because this is his first year playing at this level. I don't think he's a superstar or anything, but he was very good in 2025, and it'll be interesting to see if he can repeat that success. Number 28, Ladd McConkey, Los Angeles Chargers. After an extremely promising rookie season, McConkey couldn't quite reach the same level of production in 2025. He put up just 789 yards and 6 touchdowns, down from 1,149 yards and 7 touchdowns the year prior. His yards per route run decreased by almost a full yard, and his contested catch rate went from 61.9% to a pretty bad 23.1%. It was always going to be tough to replicate that rookie year, but I expected more out of McConkey. I don't think he was bad by any means. He still leads the Chargers in yards and is one of the better true slot receivers in the league, but he did disappoint a bit in my eyes. Number 27, DJ Moore, Buffalo Bills. Unfortunately, Moore had the worst season of his career in 2025, finishing with a career low 682 yards along with 6 touchdowns. His yards per route run were also the lowest of his career, and he didn't make the same impact he'd been making throughout his career going back to his Panthers days. It makes total sense why the Bears traded him. Moore is a 29-year-old receiver who seems to be on the decline, and the Bears have younger guys they want to get more reps. It wasn't all bad though. Moore still showed reliable hands and even had the highest contested catch rate he's ever had. I actually do like this trade for the Bills. So long as Moore doesn't regress even further, he immediately becomes a very solid low-end number 1 for a team that hasn't had a real number 1 since Stephon Diggs. I think Moore is still a good receiver, but his top 20 days seem to be behind him. Number 26, Brian Thomas Jr., Jacksonville Jaguars. The 4th Jaguars receiver on this list, Thomas was definitely one of the most disappointing receivers in 2025. Thomas had one of the best rookie receiving seasons we've ever seen, finishing 3rd in receiving yards and looked like a budding superstar. But things just didn't click this year as Thomas regressed heavily, putting up just 707 yards and 2 touchdowns. His drop rate skyrocketed to an abysmal 14.3%, tied with Jordan Addison for the 6th highest in the league. His yards per route run, yards after catch per reception, and contested catch rate dropped significantly. Thomas did not play like the 26th best receiver in the league in 2025. Hell, he honestly wasn't even top 50. But we can't ignore that incredible rookie season, so while I am dropping a Thomas a lot from last year, the talent still is in there, and I'm hoping he can put things back together and rebound in 2026. Number 25, Mike Evans, San Francisco 49ers. This one really hurts. I mean, for one, not seeing Evans in a Buck jersey, but also having him this low. Unfortunately, I don't really have a choice. Evans played just 7 full games due to injury, and when he was on the field, his play wasn't what we're used to seeing. Evans put up 368 yards and 3 touchdowns in those 7 games, his first season ever not finishing with 1,000 yards. His drop rate of 11.8% was the highest it's been in 10 years, and his yards per route run were the lowest they've ever been. I don't think Evans is a bad receiver now, and he did still have some good games, including a 132-yard performance against the Falcons. But unfortunately, at nearly 33 years old, he just isn't the same player he used to be. Number 24, Teteroa McMillan, Carolina Panthers. The Offensive Rookie of the Year, McMillan was the wide receiver 1 that Bryce Young desperately needed. McMillan put up 1,014 yards and 7 touchdowns in his rookie year, setting a Panthers rookie receiving record, and even added a nice little 81 yards in their wildcard game against the Rams. It wasn't all perfect. McMillan did have a 9.1% drop rate, and his contested catch rate wasn't particularly great either, so you would like to see the hands consistency improve. But I think overall, McMillan had an extremely promising rookie year, and I'm excited to see him build on that in the future. Number 23, Courtland Sutton, Denver Broncos. Sutton has always been one of the better true X receivers in the league, and that continued in 2025 as he put up his 2nd straight 1,000-yard season along with 7 touchdowns. He was actually able to get his drop rate down to 6.3% from over 10% the last 2 years, which is good, and overall has been Bo Nix's best target. He did struggle quite a bit in the playoffs, putting up just 70 yards and dropping 3 passes in 2 games, but I don't think it's something to worry about too much. As we'll get to, I do have Jalen Waddle above Sutton, but considering the two have vastly different skill sets, I don't expect Sutton's production to decline. Number 22, DK Metcalf, Pittsburgh Steelers. In his first season with the Steelers, Metcalf was pretty good, finishing with 850 yards and 6 touchdowns. His go ball and back shoulder ability paired with Aaron Rodgers well, and the two connected on quite a few chunk plays. What has always been frustrating about Metcalf is, despite him being one of the most physically imposing receivers the NFL has ever seen, he isn't able to use that body to win contested balls at the catch point. Because of his size, Metcalf receives a lot of contested catch targets. I mean, you'd expect somebody like him to come down with them, but he's come down with just 32 out of his 95 contested catch looks over the past 3 seasons, which equates to a little under 34%. If that was the strength of his game, this guy would probably be a top 15 receiver at least. While he's still a very good receiver, that holds him back from being great. Number 21, Alec Pierce, Indianapolis Colts. Everybody freaked out when the Colts paid Pierce $114 million. I absolutely loved it though, because I think Pierce is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. He had his best season in 2025, putting up 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns, and his 2.1 yards per route run were 16th in in the NFL. He also dropped just a single pass all season and has consistently come down with about 44% of his contested catch targets throughout his career, which is solid. And of course, his big playability has been among the best in the league, as for 2 years now, he has finished with above 21 yards per reception, meaning on average, it takes him just 5 receptions to travel the entire length of the field. Pierce isn't a complete receiver, he's more of a pure deep threat, but he's one of the best in the league at that, and I think his contract is absolutely deserved. Number 20, Jalen Waddle, Denver Broncos. The Broncos traded a first-round pick for Waddle this offseason, and I think it was a great addition. Waddle brings true deep threat ability that Sean Payton can put to great use. He had another good season in 2025, putting up 910 yards and 6 touchdowns. Pretty impressive considering the horrendous QB play he was dealing with. Waddle actually showed a level of hands consistency we haven't seen yet, as his drop rate was always hovering around 8 or 9%, but this season he brought it down to just 4.5%. I do think Waddle's a bit better than his new teammate Courtland Sutton, but considering he plays a much different role, both are going to get their own fair share of targets. I think the two complement each other well, and this Denver passing attack could be very dangerous. Number 19, Garrett Wilson, New York Jets. After 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons to begin his career, injuries limited Wilson to just 7 games, where he had just 395 yards and 4 touchdowns. Somehow, he still managed to be the Jets' leading receiver, which is hilarious. And to be honest, 56 yards per game with Justin Fields as your quarterback is kind of impressive. Wilson hasn't necessarily had the opportunity to really break through as an elite receiver, but I still think the potential is in there, and he has been a very good player throughout his first 4 years. Number 18, Malik Nabers, New York Giants. Nabers is an extremely difficult player to rank because we're just 1 year removed from an incredible rookie season that saw him put up over 1,200 yards. But Nabers unfortunately suffered a gruesome leg injury just 4 games into 2025, and that's likely to affect his availability for the 2026 season. With how serious the injury was, we just don't know how much he's going to play this season, and we don't know if he's going to be the same player when he does come back. Obviously, we've seen Nabers play like a top 10 receiver, but I can't rank him that high when there's just so much unknown. Number 17, Jameson Williams, Detroit Lions. After doing virtually nothing for his first 2 years, Williams has now put up 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and 2025 was his best yet, finishing with 1,117 yards and 7 touchdowns. His 17.2 yards per reception were the 5th among receivers, and Williams has established himself as the best true deep threat in the league. He did have a 12.2% drop rate, which isn't great, but putting up the numbers he has despite all the other weapons around him like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta is impressive. It took a bit, but Williams absolutely proved why he was a first-round pick. Number 16, Davante Adams, Los Angeles Rams. At 33 years old, Adams definitely isn't the player he used to be, but that didn't stop him from being a fantastic complement to Puka Nacua in this Rams offense. Adams was the best red zone threat in the NFL, as he led the entire league with 14 touchdowns in 14 games. He's still one of the best route runners in the league, and at this stage in his career is one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL. Their drop rate has been up the past few years, and I wouldn't expect any more 1,000-yard seasons, but even at 33 years old, Adams is still a great receiver. Number 15, T. Higgins, Cincinnati Bengals. Higgins has been one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL for a while now. When he comes up high on that list again, he actually finished with a career high 11 touchdowns in 2025, despite Joe Burrow missing half of the season. Being behind Jamar Chase obviously does limit his production a bit, though the biggest issue with Higgins is probably his availability. He played 15 games this season, which is good, but he hasn't played 16 or more games since 2022. But Higgins does bring everything you could want from an next receiver, and he would be the number 1 on a lot of NFL teams. Number 14, Devonta Smith, Philadelphia Eagles. After a bit of a dip in production last season due to missed time, Smith went right back to his 1,000-yard ways, finishing with 1,008 yards and 4 touchdowns. And this was despite Kevin Patullo making the Eagles' passing attack look like a high school's. He actually brought his drop rate down to just 3.8%, the best of his career, and he was the only receiver to actually show up and do something in the Eagles' wildcard loss to San Fran. With A.J. Brown gone, Smith is now the wide receiver 1 for Philadelphia, but I think he can handle it just fine. Number 13, Terry McLaurin, Washington Commanders. Unfortunately, injuries caused McLaurin to only play 10 games, and that, plus Jaden Daniels also missing time, causes his production to take a hit, as he put up just 582 yards and 3 touchdowns. But first of all, we can't forget that we're just 1 year removed from McLaurin putting up a 13-touchdown season, and second of all, on a per-snap basis, this was actually one of McLaurin's most efficient years. His 2.22 yards per route run were a career high, and his 2.6% drop rate was second only to his 2.5% drop rate in 2021. With both McLaurin and Jaden Daniels fully healthy, hopefully McLaurin can get back to 1,000 yards in 2026. Number 12, Chris Olave, New Orleans Saints. After playing just 8 games in 2024, Olave had a huge bounce back in 2025, putting up 1,163 yards and 9 touchdowns, both career highs and top 7 among receivers. He really turned things on when Tyler Shough began playing, and Olave played a huge role in Shough's rookie season success. He had a drop rate of just 3.8%, which is obviously very good, and it was just great to see him have such a good season after many were worried he would have to retire because of all the concussions he was dealing with. I think Shough and Olave's connection is only going to build, and I wouldn't be surprised if Olave cracks the top 10 after this season. Number 11, Zay Flowers, Baltimore Ravens. After 2 good seasons to start his career, Flowers broke out completely in 2025, finishing with a career-high 1,211 yards, which was 6th in the NFL. His 2.53 yards per out run were 4th in the league, and Flowers was quite literally the entire Ravens passing attack, so much so that he had nearly triple the yards of the next closest guy, Mark Andrews. He also brought his drop rate down to a career low 5.5% and brought his contested catch rate up to a career high 53.8%. Overall, Flowers just keeps getting better and better each season, and honestly, I hope he gets some back medicine for how much he's been carrying this receiver room. Number 10, Drake London, Atlanta Falcons. Though he only played 12 games due to injury, London had his most efficient season to date. In those 12 games, he put up 919 yards and 7 touchdowns. His 2.33 yards per out run were the highest of his career, and he also had just a 2.9% drop rate. In 5 out of his 12 games, he went over 100 yards, which is just insane, and had he stayed healthy all year, who knows what numbers he might have put up. Plus, it's not like his QB play has been anything special. Both Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins were extremely mediocre. London is an incredible receiver and a great start to the top 10. Number 9, George Pickens, Dallas Cowboys. I guess all it took was getting out of Pittsburgh, because the second Pickens got to Dallas, he started absolutely cooking, so much so that he outproduced CeeDee Lamb in almost every way. Pickens finished with an insane 1,429 yards, which is 3rd in the entire league, as well as 9 touchdowns. Drops, which are a huge problem last year, were not nearly as much this year, and he's brought his drop rate down from 13.2% to 5.1%. He also brought up his contested catch rate from 37% to 56.4%. Straight up, Pickens is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and you could argue he was the Cowboys' number 1. I'm not ready to put him over Lamb just yet, but Pickens was absolutely incredible last year. Number 8, CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of CeeDee Lamb, I still consider him as the number 1 in Dallas, even if Pickens had a better year. For one, Lamb has been more consistent for longer. This was Pickens' second 1,000-yard season in 4 years, while Lamb has put up 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and the only time he didn't, he put up 935 yards, which was his rookie year. Also, Lamb was really good in his own right. He finished with 1,077 yards despite playing just 13 games, and he did have more yards per out run than Pickens, 2.37 to 2.35. Drops have been Lamb's problem the past couple years. Everyone remembers the 4-drop game he had against the Eagles in week 1, but Lamb had a drop rate above 9.5% each of the last 2 seasons, and that's part of the reason he's moved out of the top 5 where he was for so many just a few seasons ago. Obviously though, Lamb is still one of the best receivers in the league, and he and Pickens are arguably the best wide receiving duo in the NFL. Number 7, Nico Collins, Houston Texans. Everyone wants to clown on the Texans offense because of how bad CJ Stroud was in the playoffs, which is fair, but we can't forget that Collins is still a part of this offense, and honestly is the reason that it has been so good. After not even cracking 1,000 total yards in his first 2 years, Collins has now finished his 3rd straight 1,000-yard season, putting up 1,117 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has always had amazing hands, but this season was on another level, as Collins finished with just a single drop all year, and his 1.4% drop rate was the 2nd best among starters, only behind AJ Brown at 1.3%. Collins has been the focal point of this offense for a few years now. Without him, I don't think Stroud would have had as good of a rookie season as he did, and even with the offense around him declining, Collins has still remained a top pass catcher. Number 6, AJ Brown, New England Patriots. 2025 was a frustrating year for Brown, as a combination of Jalen Hurts, but mostly Kevin Patullo, led to Brown having his least productive season as an Eagle, just 1,003 yards and 7 touchdowns. But I'll defend Brown on this one, because frankly, when the ball did come his way, he was doing everything right. Like I mentioned before, Brown had just a 1.3% drop rate, the best among starting receivers, and he's only dropped a single pass in the past 2 seasons. His contested catch rate has always been around 50% as well, which is good, and I do think under better circumstances, Brown would have had a better season. Unfortunately, things really didn't end well for Brown and the Eagles, as in the Eagles wildcard game, Brown did play one of the worst games of his career, dropping 2 passes and finishing with just 25 yards. This all led to Brown being traded to the Patriots, but I'm not going to let one bad game supersede 2 seasons of elite play. I'm really excited to see what Brown could do as a Patriot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has his best year yet. Number 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Detroit Lions. For the past 4 seasons now, St. Brown has been the poster child for elite slot receivers, and once again was one of the most efficient and reliable receivers in the NFL. He finished with 1,401 yards and 11 touchdowns touchdowns, both top 5, and his 2.48 yards per route run were 6th. St. Brown actually had the highest drop rate of his career in 2025, and it was still only 4.1%, showing how reliable his hands really are. And we call St. Brown a slot receiver, which is true, but it's not like he can't step out wide and dominate from there as well. Plus, he's the best run blocking receiver in the NFL. He can quite literally do everything. I don't think I need to tell you how good St. Brown is. This Lions offense wouldn't be the same without him. Number 4, Ja'Marr Chase, Cincinnati Bengals. Production-wise, Chase was the best receiver in the NFL in 2024, and I didn't break second only behind Justin Jefferson. But with the seasons Puka Nacua and JSN had, combined with Chase's production not being quite as high as those two, I did have to move Chase to 4th, which isn't a knock on Chase at all. This guy is still an absolutely elite wide receiver. Despite missing Joe Burrow for half the season, Chase still put up 1,412 yards and 8 touchdowns. He actually managed to lower his drop rate quite a bit from last year, down to 4.6% from 7.3%. He was also just as dangerous of a yak threat, finishing second in missed tackles forced with 23, coming only behind Puka Nacua's 25. Frankly, I wouldn't blame you if you had Chase as your number 1 receiver, but even though I have him at 4, I still think he's absolutely incredible. Number 3, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Seattle Seahawks. The reigning offensive player of the year, Smith-Njigba had one of the best breakouts of anyone this season, finishing with more yards in 2025 than his first 2 seasons combined. His 1,793 yards led the entire NFL, and his 10 touchdowns were tied for 4th. He rarely dropped the ball. His 3.62 yards per route run were second only to Puka Nacua, and in the playoffs, he was just as good, putting up 199 yards and 2 touchdowns in their 3 playoff games en route to a Super Bowl championship. And Njigba is an absolutely amazing receiver and easily the best from the first round of the 2023 draft class. But I don't think he's quite the best from the 2023 class as a whole. Number 2, Puka Nacua, Los Angeles Rams. In my opinion, Puka Nacua was the best receiver in the NFL last year, and I would have actually given him the Offensive Player of the Year award. Not that I hate Njigba, quite the opposite actually, but I do think Puka was better. Nacua led the entire NFL with an insane 107.2 yards per game, and the only reason he didn't lead the league in receiving yards was because he missed one singular game. His 3.71 yards per route run also led the league. He finished with a ridiculous 71.1% contested catch win rate, by far the most out of anybody with at least 20 contested catch targets. When you factor in the postseason along with the regular season, Nacua finished with 55 more receiving yards than Njigba despite playing 1 fewer game, and was the only receiver to cross 2,000 yards. And on top of all that, he was the highest graded receiver of all time. Yep, shit on PFF grades all you want, but when you're the highest graded receiver ever since they started doing this way back in 2006, that means something. Njigba was astonishing. Puka was unhuman. Number 1, Justin Jefferson, Minnesota Vikings. No, I don't care that Jefferson had the fewest yards of his career. Putting up 1,000 yards with a QB rotation of 9, Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer, is equivalent to putting up 2,000 yards with basically anybody else. Let's not forget that Jefferson has the most receiving yards per game in NFL history among receivers who have played at least 50 games. Jefferson also has the most receiving yards in NFL history by a player in their first 6 seasons. Jefferson also has the 8th most receiving yards by a player in their first 7 seasons. Jefferson has only played 6 seasons. Jefferson also has the 25th most receiving yards by a player in their first 8 seasons. Jefferson has only played 6 seasons. I can keep going, but I think you get the idea. This is still the best receiver in the NFL, one of the best receivers the NFL has ever seen, and don't let 9's abysmal QB play let you forget that fact. But that's it. Those are my top 50 wide receivers entering the 2026 NFL season. Would you agree? Would you disagree? Comment below. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and that's it for me. See ya.